Hello everybody. So I just found out that Amber Heard her team has put in an extension for, or a request for an extension for her appeal, and it's been granted, and it's now going to be put in 21 days after the original deadline, which now means 23rd of November instead of the 2nd of November. Now you'll note that today is the 11th of November here in Australia. I found this out, I guess, last night, our time. Probably the 10th of November American time. But the deadline for them to put in the appeal was only the 12th of November, because they had 10 days afterwards. So, and this might seem a bit strange for a lot of people, but often in courts they say, all right, your deadline is the 2nd of November, but if you miss the deadline, your deadline for launching a request for an extension of the deadline is 10 days after the deadline. Seems a bit silly. Normally, like if I'm into school, and I'm a school student, high school, university, whatever it might be, if my assignment is due on the 2nd of November, I might have until a week before that to ask for an extension. I might be able to ask for an extension the day before. I certainly won't be able to ask for an extension 10 days after I've missed the deadline. But that's how courts work. Courts don't tend to care too much about deadlines. They put deadlines down there, but there's a million ways to get around it. So basically, if you think of lawyers as kind of that kid in your class that just constantly misses deadlines and says, please mister, let me have an extension. And that's what, not just some lawyers, that's what lawyers as a group are like. And the judge is like that teacher that's just a softie. Mainly because judges used to be lawyers themselves, because that's the progression. They start off as lawyers and they go in to become judges, and there's a process there. And well, not all lawyers become judges, only a small proportion, but yeah, they used to be lawyers and they're like, yeah, we want them to have an extension, that's fair enough. So you end up with this situation where extensions are just granted all the time, and often it's tactical. And how you go about asking for the extension is tactical. So for example, if you are asking for an extension on the deadline of when the deadline for asking an extension is, and you ask for it and it's granted, and then you get that extension even though you probably don't need it, that can be tactical. So that can be to throw your opponent off, and because your opponent might be just sitting around thinking, oh, I'm not going to be opposed here. So Johnny Depp might be thinking, well, she's not appealing her bit, my case is going unopposed. And I mean, she'll still oppose his. She has time where she can answer whatever he's put in, but won't put in her own appeal. And he's probably thinking, oh yeah, not going to happen. Then suddenly, boom, there's this massive thing. And a lot of lawyers do that sort of thing as a tactical move. They'll even ask for an extension when they don't need an extension. They're all ready to go. But they'll just pretend they need an extension. They'll have all these reasons for why it should be granted. And they know that judges usually grant them. They're usually like, yeah, no worries. As long as it's a reasonable request, and the lawyers sort of know what they can get away with asking for. And, you know, it can be tactical. I have seen that so many times. I've seen cases where someone was prosecuting someone else and the defence didn't even turn up until after the case had already started. And you didn't even have lawyers, and then suddenly boom, 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 and throws you off guard. And of course the other way around too. Prosecution will go there, won't even turn up to their own case. Judge is about to dismiss the case, and then suddenly they're there, boom, boom, boom. So this sort of thing can be very tactical. Question is this tactical? So first of all, I certainly thought there was a good chance that she was not going to put in an appeal. She would certainly answer his appeal, but I didn't think she was going to put one in of her own. And there's still a chance she won't. But she has put in the assignments of error, the original ones, and she's asked for an extension on the appellate brief. So that's been granted. And the other thing is, they didn't just ask for it today or yesterday, they asked for it on October the 13th. But they didn't tell anybody. So nobody knew. Nobody in the media knew. I'm sure a few people knew, but they didn't leak it. So they let us people in the media, in the general public, believe that they hadn't put it in. So they tricked us. But they actually let Johnny Depp's team know well and truly in advance. So Johnny Depp's team would be thinking, oh, thank you for letting us know you're putting in an appeal, a request for an extension. they'd be really appreciative of her letting them know as early as 13th of October. That's really considerate of them. And then they get to put in an objection to it, and they did put in an objection. I don't know what that objection was, but they put one in. And perhaps she asked for more than 21 days. I know that they asked for a 10-page extension of their 50-page limit, and they only got 5. So it goes from 50 to 55, which, as far as I'm concerned, is nothing. They're not going to fit anything extra of any substance in those 5 pages. But, you know, they put that in, and it could well be that they asked for that extra space and asked the extra time as tactical moves. Not because they actually need the time, not because they actually need the space. Again, I don't really see any substantial difference between 50 and 55 pages. Are they going to win or lose the case based on having those extra 5 pages? I doubt it. And in fact, Johnny Depp used 35 pages to do 3 assignments of error, which were essentially 1 assignment of error in 3 parts. That's almost 12 pages per assignment. If she has 16 times 12, anybody work that out? 160, 192 pages. Round about. Maybe you can cut that down, 185 or so. And I suppose he's got a bit of fluff in there. Maybe you can get it out of 150. You're not going to get it in 55. You're nowhere near. So what she's going to have to do is she's going to have to cut that 16 down to about 3 or 4. I'd say she could possibly go up to 5, but I don't think that's a good idea. And I know which 3 or 4 they should be. They're the 3 or 4 strongest arguments. I'm not going to go over them because who knows what she'll do. And the other thing is, as a tactical move, she could still put in all 16. Or could put in 12 or 13 or 15. But she wouldn't be able to go into much detail in the appellate brief. But just because Johnny Depp went into massive amounts of detail doesn't mean that she has to. She could just squish it together and just say, all right, these are the 16, and just make it just a little bit longer than that assignment of error list, which was still, I think that was about 4 or 5 pages. So she can still squash this into about 55 and just don't go into any detail. Just know you've got 3 pages per assignment of error, and that's all you get. You just be as brief as possible, and that's what you do. And so why would she want to go for 16, given that a lot of legal experts are telling me that you're going to be more likely to win with 3 or 4 than you are with 16? Why? Why have 16? First of all, it's going to annoy Johnny Depp's team. They're going to have to do a lot more work. It's going to cost him a lot more in legal fees, because it's going to drag the case out a lot longer, because he'll have to respond to all of her appeal grounds. And I mean, she has to respond to all of his appeal grounds. They're effectively 1 with 3 parts. That's pretty easy. But if she has 16 whole things, and he's going to have to respond to that, that's going to drag the case out. It's going to cost him more money in legal fees, and he doesn't get the money back in legal fees. Even if he wins, even if he wins both sides of it, even if he successfully defends against her appeal and successfully wins his appeal, he still doesn't get costs. So that's the thing. So however much he might be spending, $5-10 million on handling both sides of this appeal, because he has to defend against her appeal and make his own appeal. So that could be $5 or $10 million easily. Might be more than that. And I've given that kind of figure because we know that Elaine Bredehoff charged $8 million for the trial. And appeals are pretty expensive too. I'm not sure if they're more or less. I think they're more per hour, but they tend not to go for as long. So, yeah, it could easily be several $1 million. Plus, of course, it'd be annoying for him and for his team. Or probably not for his team. They're probably thinking, hey, this is good, we get more money. But, you know, it's going to be quite frustrating. And the other thing is it could lengthen the case. Now, good judges will just dismiss things, but they also have to consider it reasonably. And as long as they're even a little bit reasonable, the good judge will have to look at them on their merits. They can't just say, all right, well, these are the 3 or 4 that are the biggest ones. We'll actually pay attention to them, we'll dismiss the rest. They're not really allowed to do that. They have to look at them properly. So this could all delay it. And if her aim is to delay things, and there's a lot of people that go into court cases just to delay having justice, a lot of people. I've seen civil cases where both sides delayed it for as long as possible and just kept paying legal fees and legal fees and legal fees when they're two businesses. And it can go on. I've seen ones that went on for 20 years. A never-ending legal battle that never stopped, with no victor ever announced. And they're just wasting the court's time. But these are people who have so much money that they don't care about paying legal fees. And the lawyers are happy to keep collecting, and neither side really wants to win. Because they don't want to lose. They'd be happy to win, but they're too scared of losing. And if that's Amber Heard's aim, 16 assignments of error is a good idea. We also have to remember that if her aim is to, after this, go into hiding, which could well be her aim, having 16 assignments of error and producing them and all this sort of thing could be a really good tactic. Because if she could then go into hiding, run away, never pay it back, and I mean, there's potential for criminal charges coming out of, certainly out of Australia, and possibly perjury in other jurisdictions in UK and in US. So if she does face criminal charges, well, she wants to run away. And she also doesn't want to deal with his insurance lawsuit, which she's already tried to put on hold. And she's already said she's stateless. I believe she's saying she's living in Spain. That's hinting towards her wanting to just run away. And if she has hidden money, who knows? If she has some of Johnny Depp's, maybe Elon Musk is giving her money, who knows? She could well have enough money to live on for the rest of her life, but just doesn't want people hassling her. If all of that is the case, her aim would be to delay this as much as possible. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if she personally didn't appear in court for any of the time. I don't believe she has to. She doesn't have to give evidence. It'll just be lawyers against lawyers, judges there, and the actual clients will not. I don't believe Johnny Depp will be there. So if her aim is just to delay it, 16 could be a great idea. And now we're hearing that she doesn't have to pay up the money in order to have the appeal heard. Well, just has to pay whatever it was, $5,000 or something. She has to pay the legal fees, but travellers seem to be happy to just foot the bill. And New York Marine, well, they just have to wait until this never-ending appeal goes on. So if that is the tactic that she's doing, and I think it may well be, then yeah, she's not aiming to win, she just doesn't want it to finish. Doesn't want to be branded as wrong. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. You can even subscribe. Wow, starting to sound like a real YouTuber. Anyway, that's it from me. Bye bye.